When I first saw a picture of the sprinkle cake, I thought, oh, what fun. What a wonderful celebratory cake. And it's inspired by my friend Matt Lewis. Colorful and festive, I know it will be a huge hit at your next birthday celebration. We're going to bake the cake in 3 8-inch straight-sided cake pans. This has been buttered, lined with parchment, and buttered again and floured. So prepare your cake pans, get them out of the way. So first, sift your dry ingredients. 2½ cups of cake flour. Notice that I am dipping and scooping and then leveling. You want a very fine crumb. And because the cake flour has less protein, which gives you a coarser crumb cake, you should use cake flour. So 2½ cups, 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, 1/2 cup and 1/4 cup. And again, remember, if you put your dry ingredients in big jars like this, it really makes baking much easier. So there's our flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and 3/4 teaspoon of coarse salt. 1/2 teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon. Whisk all your dry ingredients together, and you're ready to use these in your cake. Now, cream your butter. 1 stick of butter, which is 1/2 cup, and 1/2 cup of shortening. Get that mixed up, and sugar, 1 3/4 cup. And remember, this is enough batter to fill 3 layers, and it is a sweet cake. That's the half, and now the last quarter, 1 3/4 cups. And add 2 tablespoons of vanilla. Again, sounds like a lot, but we want a flavorful cake. And that looks good, 1 egg, just 1 egg. And now the wet ingredients to add alternately with your dry, 1/2 cup of buttermilk and 1/2 cup of whole milk and 1 cup of ice cold water. So add dry, wet. Dry, wet. So here's our batter. Very, very nice. It's going to get even lighter and fluffier by adding 3 egg whites that are beaten to soft peaks with 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. These are beating, and here are our sprinkles. We decided for this particular cake, which is for a child, to use pink, green, white, yellow, and lavender. And here is just some of the many, many colors that sprinkles come in. So you sprinkle the sprinkles on top of your batter and fold them in gently with a spatula. You want sprinkles throughout the batter, and they sort of disperse very nicely. And because they're well coated and stable, they do not leach their color into the batter, and they stay pretty nice. Don't overbeat your egg whites. You want to keep them fluffy and airy, but not dry, because they won't fold in and they won't do their job. Add your egg whites, all of them, and fold them into your batter. Now remember too, when you're beating egg whites, to make sure that the bowl is impeccably clean, kind of like right out of the dishwasher is best, because any little bit of grease or butter in the bowl will prevent the egg whites from reaching their optimum volume as you're beating them. So make sure. Now see how I'm cutting down through the center and turning the bowl at the same time to get the egg whites all the way through your batter. I like making birthday cakes, and we always try in our family to make something that is delightful, fun, not too elaborate, and that everybody's going to enjoy. So now I want to divide this evenly, so I'm going to just spoon into each pan. 1. You could use a scale. Scale works very well to make sure you get the right amount of batter in each. So now into a 325-degree oven. Rotate the pans halfway, about 20 minutes, because you're going to keep these in for approximately 40 to 45 minutes until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. So this is what the cakes look like when they are cooled. Beautiful golden brown sides, perfect top. But still, because you want a nice, even cake, if there is any roundness on the top, use a serrated knife and just take off that little excess bump on the top of your cake. And I know somebody who's going to just love to snack on that. We have 6 cups of a Swiss meringue buttercream. And I don't know how many of you have a turntable like this, but invest in one. It saves so much time and really makes cake decorating a pleasure. So the next layer, this cake is so nice because it does really hold up well. Make sure no crumbs. It's a cute cake. Now the bottom layer is on a round of cardboard, so that will make it very easy to lift up onto a cake stand. Okay, so all the rest of this frosting is going to coat the cake. And we want a nice, smooth, even coating onto which we're going to impress our sprinkles. So it's very easy to completely cover this cake with the frosting. Just keep turning and smoothing. Okay, this looks good. Notice how I'm holding the offset spatula at a 90-degree angle so that the sides are all perpendicular. So stick this right in the fridge just for a few moments to get it a little bit firmer, then press in your sprinkles. So now, sprinkles. Sprinkle, sprinkle, all over. So pretty. And notice I have the cake on a baking sheet because you want the excess sprinkles to fall somewhere and not all over your kitchen. But so pretty. And on the sides, you just hold them in your hand and press. But it is kind of important to chill a little bit because if it's too soft, you will get the icing all over your hands. So fun to do this. And what a wonderful result. I love the colors. So there. Now you can just run your little spatula. Now remember, this cake is on a cardboard, so it will be very easy to lift. And slide a spatula underneath your cake and transfer to a cake stand or a tray. There. Well, it's really great after you bake a cake and decorate it that you can actually smile. This is a pretty cake, it's a fun cake, and it is perfect for any celebration. Enjoy. Another really cute cake for a celebration, especially for a birthday, is what we call a hedgehog cake. 3 cups of cake flour, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 4 teaspoons of baking powder. 3, 4. Now sift all this together, and while you're preparing, cream 1 pound, 4 sticks of unsalted butter, and 2 cups of granulated sugar. Just sprinkle in slowly. We're adding vanilla seeds to this particular cake. You can mix it into your milk. Okay, add the dry ingredients and alternate with your milk. The flour, the milk. And this is whole milk. Now, get your egg whites going. 8 egg whites. And the bowl, this cake is baked in a stainless steel bowl, 10 inches across and at least 4 to 6 inches deep. And I've buttered the entire bowl. Then just sprinkle a little flour, say a tablespoon or so, in the bowl, and make sure the whole bowl is coated. This will allow the cake to release after baking. And then bang it out. There, a well buttered and floured bowl. Okay, the egg whites are almost ready. Not dry, but nice peaks. Do a few to start, just to lighten the batter, and then the rest. And the cake, 350 degrees, And then rotate your bowl halfway through baking. And a cake tester has to come out clean from the center of this deep cake. And it takes an hour and 40 minutes because of the depth of this cake. So be prepared. Get all the way down to the bottom of the bowl. Now put this batter right into this big bowl. So I'm going to smooth this out and pop it into the oven. So the cake is baked, and it's a gorgeous domed cake. Look at the good color and very evenly baked. And now for the extraordinary flavorful fillings. We need a little bit of simple syrup, half a cup of water and a half a cup of sugar. And this will keep the cake very, very moist. And just dissolve the sugar and the water and bring it to a boil, and then cook it until it's slightly thick, and that's going to take about 5 minutes. And just watch it. Now here is a simulated double boiler. We have some water in the bottom of this pan, and we have 3 large egg whites in the bowl of a mixer. And this is the beginning of the Swiss meringue, which is basically warmed, sugared egg whites, warmed until the sugar dissolves, and we need 2/3 of a cup of sugar to the 3 egg whites. 2. And you have to watch this, stir it periodically. It gets a little bit hot. The cake itself is so beautiful, and we want to cut it into 4 layers. I've measured, and every inch or so, or every 3/4 of an inch, just insert a toothpick. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we take the top layer off first. Such a beautiful cake. And use a long serrated knife. Yes, right there. Ugh. So take this off and then the next layer. And then you can leave your last layer. A well-made cake can be lifted like that without it falling all apart. And our egg whites are now warm enough to put on the mixer. So this gets beaten and beaten until they're very stiff. Our sugar syrup is almost finished boiling. Looks good. Now add almond flavored liqueur, 3 tablespoons. So now while the egg whites are beating, you can take your brush and brush a little bit of the cooled almond syrup all over the cake layer, and add a half a teaspoon of almond extract to your meringue. Incorporate 2 sticks of nice whipped butter. Look at the consistency. It is light and airy and utterly delicious. Spread that. You want a nice even layer all the way to the edge. And now the next layer, again, soak this layer with your almond flavored syrup. Let it soak all the way in. Half a cup of apricot jam. And now the 3rd layer, again, soak well. There, I used up all the syrup. And now another layer of your Swiss meringue buttercream. So pretty. And then we're going to coat the entire exterior with the remaining buttercream. And the cake at this point, before you apply the meringue, should be chilled. So here is our Swiss meringue. It's not a buttercream, it's just a meringue. It's 8 egg whites beaten with 2 cups of sugar and a teaspoon of almond extract and a little bit of salt. You are just going to make spiky little spines all over the cake with a star tip. Just cover this with quills, pretty quills. And this should be enough meringue to do this. So pretty. So if you notice how I start at the surface of the cake and then I pull away, trying to emulate the little quills of the hedgehog. So now, this is the fun part. I love torching. Just lightly toast the tips. Now, you can make a little nose and a little eye here with chocolate-covered coffee beans, and a little eye there. So over the years, I've served this cake many times. Children think it's a dog, a hedgehog, a polar bear. You decide. It always gets rave reviews. Not long ago, we had a cake contest at the studio of Will Cotton. He's a fine artist, and every year he has a cake contest. My daughter Alexis made a monstrous heart cake, maybe this big, and it was a layer of banana cake, a layer of coconut cake, a cream cheese frosting, and pink tinted coconut flakes. It was so delicious and so beautiful. So 1 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour. These are the dry ingredients for the banana cake. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of coarse salt. So just whisk your dry ingredients together, and that's done. Now for the banana itself, 1 1/2 really ripe bananas. You just mash with 2 tablespoons of sour cream, 1/2 teaspoon vanilla, and mix this all together. This will be incorporated right into the batter and give a real nice banana flavor, like that. And now, your pan is already buttered, and a parchment heart is inserted into the bottom on top of butter. Then everything is buttered again and floured. Into the mixer, 6 tablespoons of unsalted, best quality butter. Cream that. If it's room temperature, it creams really fast. And 3/4 cup of granulated sugar, plus 2 tablespoons. And as that creams, it'll get nice and soft. 2 large eggs. Add that to your sugar mixture. So I'm adding the banana now. And then reduce the speed and add your dry ingredients. And you don't have to overbeat this, but you do need to incorporate all the dry ingredients. Preheat your oven to 350. So all of this goes right into the cake pan. Rotate your pan halfway through the cooking time, and it should bake in about 30 to 35 minutes. Now for the second layer of our wonderful banana coconut heart cake, 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. It's pretty similar to the banana, but we're using shredded, sweetened coconut and coconut milk. And 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 cup of shredded coconut. Because it's a little bit stringy, we want to break up the strings in a food processor. Lovely. Just a few pulses will do. Oh yes, that looks good. So add that to your dry ingredients. 3/4 cup of unsalted butter, room temperature. 1 1/3 cup of sugar right into the butter. And we're going to use 2 eggs and 2 egg whites. And making cakes, I don't know, my grandma did not have an electric mixer, but boy, does it make it easier to have a good stand mixer like this with several bowls and all the different whisk attachments. 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla. And we have 3/4 cup coconut milk. Alternate the dry ingredients with the coconut milk. So this is a rich and delicious batter. Pour your batter right into the heart-shaped pan. Get this right into your preheated 350-degree oven for 55 minutes, rotating the pan about halfway through. And now for the cream cheese frosting, which is one of our favorite frostings. 3 8-ounce boxes of cream cheese. 3 sticks of butter, which is 1.5 cups of unsalted butter at room temperature. So here we have the butter and the cream cheese mixing together. To this, we'll add 3 cups of sifted confectioner's sugar. This is powdered sugar, which is really granulated sugar, ground and ground and ground to a fine powder. And then a little bit of cornstarch is added to keep the powdered sugar very dry and soft. So it sifts very quickly through a sieve like this. Just press it with a rubber scraper or a wooden spoon and measure by dipping and leveling. So that's never packing. Don't pack powdered sugar. Oops, ooh, turn it down. 1, 2, and 3. Scrape down. This is one of the easiest frostings to make. Oh, and don't forget some vanilla, a tablespoon of vanilla. This kind of frosting takes food coloring very nicely. So now just spread a layer of cream cheese frosting on top of the coconut cake, and then put the banana cake on top of the coconut cake. And see, using a turntable is just such a time saver. That looks good. So just get as much frosting on the cake as you can possibly take, because I don't think you can ever have too much of this cream cheese frosting on a cake. It is so tasty. And it's going to be completely covered with a colorful coconut layer. We don't want to see any cake. We want to completely cover our cake. There, now we're ready to embellish with coconut. So I'm going to tint the coconut just this little pale pink using 1/4 teaspoon of powdered food coloring. So put this coconut in a bag. So you see how easy it is to tint your coconut? Oh, this is pretty. This is beautiful for a baby shower, for an engagement party. So pretty. And just put it all over the cake. And then for the sides, you'll do, as we did with the sprinkles, you'll just kind of press this in. Now that is perfect for Valentine's Day, but for pretty much any celebration. A wonderful, delectable 2-flavor cake with coconut. Well, I hope you'll try to make one of these beautiful homemade cakes for your next celebration. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next Martha Bakes.
Use a tall glass to hold a pastry bag and fill with buttercream. Remove the pastry bag and place on the work surface. Use a bowl scraper to push the buttercream towards the tip to remove any air bubbles. Twist the top of the pastry bag. Using an open star tip, begin in the center of the cupcake and pipe outwards in a circular motion to form a rose. Place your cupcake on a cake stand. Add candles and you're ready for any celebration.